So, hello and welcome back. After last week's utter failure of an exploration of Karazhan, we are back to just exploring things that I know a little bit better than a raid that, although I love it dearly for the entire aesthetic, obviously I don't know my way like the back of my hand. Definitely need a guide dog in there, or a guide anything. It's a cool raid, but I did feel really embarrassed about getting lost in there. What can you do? I have never claimed to be a good WoW player, just an enthusiastic one. But with all of that being said and done, it is back to exploring, and this week we are going to delve into the Swamp of Sorrows, an area that I only used as a great place to farm thorium back all the way up through Wrath of the Lich King. And then once the Cataclysm came and the revamp came, it started to be a more interesting place to quest. So let's go take a look at it. So here we are in Deadwind Pass still, but up ahead I can see a little bit of green. It is the Swamp of Sorrows. Goodbye, bleak deadlands. Hello, swamp. Not exactly a huge improvement, but an improvement nonetheless. Now, before the Cataclysm, Swamp of Sorrows was mostly a horde questing zone. And way back in the history of World of Warcraft and Azeroth, this was actually all, the Swamp of Sorrows and the Blasted Lands were all a part of an area known as the Black Morass, which you can go visit if you go to the Caverns of Time and do one of the Burning Crusade dungeons there. And you can kind of see it looks very similar to our current Swamp of Sorrows, but it's way back in the day when Medivh opened the Dark Portal and let the orcs into Azeroth. It kind of changed everything forever, and then again when Deathwing came out, it changed everything again forever. And I actually really like the revamp that they did in the Swamp of Sorrows. Some of the stuff that they revamped I don't like as much, but this area I definitely enjoyed the revamp. One thing, if you are a hunter character, the Swamp of Sorrows is honestly one of the best places to get really cool rare pets. I'm not sure if Gib the banana hoarder here is tameable or not, but if he is, could you imagine having a little monkey pet with a little fez on his head? It's adorable. He's also throwing bananas at me, but you know, details. That's one thing, the Swamp of Sorrows has a ton of rare spawns in it now. I mean, so many. I honestly have not completely decided if we're going to bring Onyx in. I did bring her out here to just explore and see if there was anything really noteworthy on the Horde side, as far as the stuff that I really go for, which is buildings and things like that. And honestly, other than a very tragic quest chain in the right as you come in at Splinter Spear Junction, there's not a lot Horde-wise, and honestly, I thought that there wasn't a lot Alliance side either, until I found a couple of really interesting things that I will show you. Now, this is probably one of my favorite places to just farm thorium. If you are a miner for blacksmithing or engineering, it's everywhere in the Swamp of Sorrows. It's almost as good as farming it over on the other side of the continent on Kalmandor in Ungoro Crater. It's just a really good place to farm. Now there, up ahead of me in this cave, in the Misty Valley, is another, I think he's actually part of a quest, But he is a very, very pretty kitty cat that if you are a hunter, you can tame. I know because I have tamed him before. And that is Duskfang. Very pretty. Like I said, historically, this is a not amazingly significant area. Unless I'm completely wrong, I have not been able to find much on it, other than the fact that this was once part of the Blasted Lands. Now, they added in the harborage here, and there is a semi-sad quest chain involving a dying Draenei. It's similar to the quest chain that is involving the dying orc, only I honestly think that the orc's quest is a little bit sadder because his mate is the one who is sending you out on the quests. But yes, you can do this long quest chain that this Draenei sends you out on to help with this broken one, Magtor, and then at the end of it he dies. It's kind of sad. Now, that's something that's really interesting. If you look, you've got some of the Draenei, and then you have a lot of the broken. The broken are actually devolved Draenei. They are Draenei who, for one reason or another, have devolved. So you go from... Here, we'll just talk to this guy here. I think... No, he is also a broken. You go from the Draenei, our playable race, which is this dude. Whoop! Zoomed in too close. And then they devolve, and you see a lot of these guys in Outland, to the broken, who are still very similar to their Draenei selves, but a little bit more wizened, a little bit more wasted. But they're still pretty much all there. And then at the other end of the Swamp of Sorrows, which we will see here in a little bit, you see the Lost Ones, which is even further devolved, but they're still Draenei. And the Lost Ones are considered lost because they attack everybody on sight. They are extremely hostile to every player. So, yeah. Now, up ahead is another rare that I have seen many times. He is a very cool wind serpent, Ionis. And his model is really neat because he's black and red. And I think that could be a unique coloration. So, like I said, if you are a Beast Mastery hunter, which is what I typically play, Beryl is not one. Beryl is my rogue, but if you're a Beast Mastery hunter, like Beryl's daughter Donna is, this is a great place to just go and get rare spawn pets. Now, right up here is one of the Lost Ones. I don't know if we'll be able to zoom in before he attacks us, although it's fine, he can attack. And as you see, as I zoom in on him, they still have magic. They still kind of look like a Draenei till you get to the mouth anyway, but they have completely devolved. Alright, well, we will put him out of his misery, and maybe even get rid of his little totems so I can actually move. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I was reading an article on Google just all about the Lost Ones and how they are still considered Draenei. They are just very much devolved. And it's kind of tragic if you think about it. Alright, so we go past the Lost One village, which I feel like there might have been a few quests for Alliance players involving the Lost Ones back in Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, but I don't really remember. I just mostly remember coming here to mine thorium. But even that could have been a weird memory. Alright, now with the Cataclysm, the goblins came and made a neutral village, Bog Paddle. It's a lot like their other villages of Booty Bay, Ratchet, Gadgets on, the one up in Winter Spring that I can't remember the name of, Area 52. This used to be pretty much the only way you would see goblins before the Cataclysm, was they were a neutral faction whoever had the most money is who they would serve. Or both. And this is a really cool little place, and it's a great little questing hub. It's got some fun quests. I was poking around in here, and I'm not sure if he'll do it again, but earlier when I was in this little hut, which is a nice little goblin house, complete with a bed, old Mitch Yost Paddle actually levitated. It was a little bit disturbing. I'm not sure why he did it. And it looks like all of his feet are firmly planted on the ground this time. But yeah, this is a fairly typical goblin house. You've got your little straw thatched bed and your pineapple wallpaper. Kind of makes me happy. You go into the inn and you can see, again, the goblins are neutral. They have beds for the humans. Somebody from Marshtide is here carousing. And they have hammocks for the orcs, which seems to be the typical Horde side sleeping arrangement is on a hammock, which would honestly get me motion sick, unfortunately. And then if you run around a little bit and check into the other buildings, there's a couple of trade goods vendors here and a couple different profession vendors that could potentially have some good stuff. You can also see this place, Frankie Good Times, is selling some food and drink, and the local goblins are entertaining the local soldiers who are here semi-peacefully at the moment, because the goblins don't seem to allow any fighting in their villages. At least not too much. And then another thing that's kind of cute, and involves a quest, but you go right down here on the beach. You just have to dodge some of these crabs on the beach, and you've got a goblin party complete with pool floaties. You got some people out here getting a nice tan. You got some beach bunnies. It is a regular beach party, bog paddle style. It's kind of cool. And this is one of the two things that I found that was really cool that I did not know about before I started poking around again. And that is, if you have a character who maybe wants their own ship, there are two empty ships that are not as fully furnished as another ship I know of, but that one we won't see for a long time. But you can go into this ship right here at Bog Paddle. You've got nice little hammock over in the corner. You've got some chairs that you can actually sit in, have a little conversation with your friends. You can go up on deck, check out everything. And if you ever wanted to be the captain of your own ship, you can go right back here to a very nicely appointed captain's cabin. And the nice thing about this is there's no NPCs on this ship. It is usable by Horde or Alliance. So if you ever had a hankering for your own ship, now you know. Bog Paddle. And there's one more ship, not quite as friendly to the Horde side. You would probably end up getting flagged for PvP and having to fight a lot, but there is one more ship that I'll show you guys here in a little bit. It's not that one over there. Now, these other ships that are out at anchor are also empty, but they don't have any furnishings, so they're not nearly as good. Alright, you come down here and you can see an interesting little race, the Giblins. They are basically goblins, but they are goblins who are... They're kind of like a goblin murloc cross. They're kind of cool, honestly. And I think that they are somehow connected with the old gods, but don't quote me on that, because that is just pure speculation on my part. You can also see the skeleton of a turtle that I've seen people ask if maybe this is proof of Pandaria long before Pandaria showed up. Don't know if that is the case or not, but it is kind of cool. Now, there is one dungeon in this zone, which we will go through next week, and I won't get lost in, although I've found out that if I had ever gone into it pre-Cataclysm, which I don't think I ever did, I would have been in serious trouble, because it was even bigger than Karazhan before they nerfed it. They nerfed it into a very, very easy to get around dungeon, but it used to be the biggest dungeon in the game. So, and that is the Sunken Temple. We will go through that next week. Now, right over here is our second ship, if you ever wanted your character to be a sea captain. This is the place to do it. It's exactly like the last one, but I'll show it to you anyway, because why not? You can just come on down here, go through the little cabin. But yeah, it's appointed exactly the same way. So this one would be a little bit harder if you are a Horde player, because it is right at Marshtide Watch, which is an Alliance hub. So there's a chance that you could get on with no problem, but there's also a chance that you would end up pulling all of the soldiers who are stationed here. You'd probably be okay because they're all like level 30, but still. Now, I poked around in here, and really, it's just kind of a very bare bones questing hub, and not all that great. It's kind of very similar. In fact, actually, I think Stannard, which is the Horde equivalent of it, is honestly a little bit of a better questing area. Right over here is the entrance to Sunken Temple. We will check that out next week. The Temple of Atal Hakar. Mostly just known as the Sunken Temple, but it's a cool little dungeon, especially if your character happens to be a skinning main for their profession, because you can get a lot of really good dragon hide leather, because that is a dungeon that is filled with dragons. Kind of cool. Then we just go off over here. We've got another one of those turtle skeletons. And I can see why people think that it could be Pandaren just looking at the structure on its back, but I also have seen speculation that that could be Naga, which also makes sense. So, now right over here you have the Misty Reed farm. I don't know whose farm this was, but it has been taken over by Marshfin Murlocs. And, yeah, it's nobody's farm anymore. And unfortunately, I don't think that there's much left furnishing-wise. It almost looks like it used to be a bunkhouse. But there is a little bit in here. You just have to dodge a few Murlocs to get in. Nice little bookshelf. I mean, it's a good hideout for a band of robbers, I think. Now you also have a nice little cave that is right over here by Stalbog, which is another little tiny questing hub that is attached to Bog Paddle. And in these quests, you get to be shot out of a cannon, which is great fun. But yeah, you've got a minion of the old gods in the back of this cave who is controlling the local Murlocs. Kind of a fun quest chain. And that's really about it for the Swamp of Sorrows. Again, it's a great place to mine thorium. It does have some fun quests. The quests in Bog Paddle are absolutely fantastic. This is Stannard. It is the Horde questing hub. Like I said, it's pretty basic. It's kind of like Marshtide. There's not much to it. The real treasure for me was finding those 2 boats with fully furnished rooms in them. That was honestly way cool. So, next week we are going to go through the Sunken Temple. I think it'll be a lot of fun because I won't get lost in it. I'm going to do a little bit of looking up and seeing if I can find much about the historical dungeon, because like I said, that's not one that I ever went through, because I just, even back then, I played in dungeons more, but it was never my thing. It's never been my thing. I like the stories. I love questing. I do like pet battles. Actually, there is a pet trainer here in the Swamp of Sorrows. Her name is Everessa. She is got a aquatic pet, a beast pet, and a flying pet. They're all level 17. It's a fairly straightforward fight. You just change up your types so that you have a type advantage and she goes down without too much problem. But that's really about it. If you are looking for a fantastic place to farm thorium and true silver, I find a lot of true silver here. This is a great place for it. If you are a Beast Mastery hunter and you are looking for some really cool exotic pets, there's a lot of them out here. There's more than just the monkey and the wind serpent I showed you. There's usually a really cool raptor that's out here. There's a neat spider that I didn't see this go around. But there's a lot of really cool pets. Or if you're just looking for a place to hang out and be the captain of your own ship, Horde or Alliance side, this is the place to do it. This is the only place I've found a boat like that, but now that I know what I'm looking for, I'm going to look even more. Anyway, looking forward to next week. We will go through the Sunken Temple, and until then, have a fantastic night.